Mobile Suit Gundam MS SenSen 0079 is a Nintendo Wii exclusive game released in 2007. It's a fast-paced first-person cockpit view mech action game, using the Wii Remote to aim and shoot and do attacks like melee strikes by waving the Wii Remote around and using the nunchucks to move around. The game's story is set during the 1 Year War 0079 and follows two different teams of young rookie pilots, the Earth Federation's SRT Unit 1 and Zeon's Boga team. That's about as much as I can tell you about the story, as it's all written and spoken in Japanese, but if you're familiar with the 1 Year War you won't find yourself too much in the dark. Graphically the game is pretty decent looking. I'd say the 3D models are slightly above PS2 level. You see them best during the in-game graphic engine cutscenes. This is also where you can see the game running at a somewhat smoother pace. It's a shame it couldn't maintain that fluidity during the actual gameplay. The frame rates do hurt the game somewhat because aiming is already difficult, so having the frame rates go up and down at crucial moments does affect how well you're going to be hitting enemies. That in effect is why I tended to choose machine guns over any beam weapon. Even though the beam does far more damage in one shot, you may find yourself missing more. Plus beam weapons have less ammo, which makes it a pain for resupplying. You can pick up enemies' weapons once you've defeated them. Well, I say weapons, I mean whatever gun they were using. This will replace whatever weapon you are currently using. So best swap around if you're low on ammo and can't reach a resupply crate. That's if you're in a compatible MS though. An AC guy can't pick up a beam rifle etc, so keep that in mind. Either way, I tended to become quite attached to whatever weapon I picked at the start, so I will do my best to hang on to it. You can always go back for your old weapon as long as the game hasn't loaded you into a new area. For me, the best weapons were the Zaka machine guns and the double MP, which I used a lot. For beams, the Alex NT beam rifle is one of the best once you unlock it. Before you go out on missions, you can change the formation of your teammates. Eventually you unlock quite a few different ones, but they all form around normal, offensive and defensive in some fashion. I just messed around to see which ones work best. Which I should mention, this game does have friendly fire, so don't be surprised if your teammates might blast you trying to get someone else. Once in the missions you can change the formations on the fly. As you work your way through story mode, you'll also gain access to more cost points and MS to play with. This means you'll be able to get more better suits out at once. It's not just the suits, but weapons also add to your overall cost. It's a real juggernaut for your first playthrough. For the Federation side, the best suit in my opinion was the Ground Gundam. For the Zeon side, the best suits you'll get early on are most certainly the DOMs. Their speed, boost and strong melee make them the go-to mobile suit, at least for me. That is until you eventually unlock the Campfire, which is just an S tier suit, because you'll often get S ranks just playing in that. This is just for your first playthrough. Once you start beating Ace Pilot mode, you'll unlock even better suits for both sides. Actually the game has a ton of replay value since you'll have to beat the story mode at least twice, as both sets have two different routes. Certain key missions will branch off either to the left or right. Getting an S or A rank will see you go one way. Get a B or lower will see you take the opposite direction. It's great and it gives you new missions to play and more mobile suits to play with, and you'll have everything you have from your previous playthrough. If story mode wasn't enough, the game has an Ace Pilot mode. This is where the game strips away a few options and makes it more of an arcade affair where you pick an Ace Pilot from the 1 Year War up to 0080 and play either 1 to 6 missions depending on who you picked, and you're playing their main title suit for the missions. This is just gravy on top of an already awesome game. The game uses what I like to call Gundam video game stock music. If you played any Gundam game from the PS2 up to PS4, you've heard most of these tracks before. Still saying that, the way the dev team decided to utilise the tracks makes a world of difference. The music will change depending on what is going on in the mission. This adds to the dramatic effect, especially when action heats up in the final moments etc. The game's controls are just before the borderline of simulation. It keeps that arcade feel, but you can't aimlessly press buttons and hope for the best. Combat and drawing out different weapons must all be timed. There is a delay in your attacks and when switching to some weapons. For example, you can block melee attacks by holding down A and B at the same time. Then if you time it right you can get in your own strikes. It will take some practice, but eventually you'll get the hang of it. and when you do, you'll start to easily switch attacks and boost around, destroying your opponents. The CPU is not stupid in this game, however. Sniper units, for example, will start to make a run for it when you find their safe spot and try to engage you from distance. But by that same merit, suits that are more melee focused will most certainly get up in your face to slice you down. This is something you should also take advantage of depending on what MS you're in. Is it safe to go in close or should you hang back? How many other MSs are around? These are all things you will start to think about, especially when you start to enter the final set of missions. Holy hell, I thought the Federation last mission was tough, but the last true Xeon mission, my god, the Federation literally throw everything they got at you. It's a long grueling mission where you will start to ask, when does it end? How many mobile suits do I have to take out? It really felt like the last conflict on a giant battlefield. By the way, to unlock the true last Xeon mission, you'll need to first beat the Federation story mode. Then in Xeon story mode, you'll need to get an S or A ranking whichever route mission 13 you end up at. That will unlock your own personal hell, so just be ready to put everything you've learned in the game to the test. I'm going to say a term that often gets thrown around a lot in the retro community, but for me this game really was a hidden gem. I never at all expected to be having so much fun where I pretty much played and beat the game over one weekend because I just didn't want to stop playing it. I beat both the Federation and Xeon campaigns to 100%. I didn't do the weapons and stolen mobile suits to the same effect only because of how tedious it is to capture suits, since you need to land headshots as the final blow. Given the slim pickings the Wii has for mech games, it shouldn't shock you that I highly recommend picking this game up if you have a Wii and happen to be a giant robot or Gundam fan. Given the amount of shovelware released for the Wii, I'm shocked Bandai didn't release this game in the West. I mean, all that they would have to do is translate the wall of text for the story. There would have been money to be made. Given how the Wii was back in its prime back then, it may have even introduced kids to the Gundam franchise. That time may have passed, but that makes this game even more of a hidden gem, and right now it's pretty cheap. That's the thing though with retro games, you have to jump on the game before bigger YouTubers and collectors start talking about it. I wanted to shed some light on this game as it hardly gets talked about, but I have to say it actually ended up being one of my favourite Gundam games. Just make sure you have a modded Wii or way of playing Japanese games on your Wii. It might be a Japanese game, but you won't have any trouble getting through and enjoying the game. This game could only be done on the Wii, and that's why it offers a unique Gundam gaming experience that you will not find anywhere else. With 2 massive campaign modes, an ace pilot mode and a ton of mobile suits for you to unlock, with even more extras beyond that, you couldn't ask for more as a Gundam fan. For that reason, this is absolutely a game you should play and own. As always, thanks for watching and catch you next time.
なんとかなったな。よし、仕事はおしまいだ。